Hello and welcome to the Student StarCraft AI Tournament Weekly Broadcast. This is Nightcat, and I will be your host for today. We're going to do a little bit of a one-take run here through old Nlpr style here. Just to get these games cast, I do have one game that is recommended from the replays channel, and then the rest I have chosen using the I'm Feeling Lucky option on the BASIL ladder, which is a great way to just get a random selection of games from, I think, the recent 24 hours or so period from whenever you've pressed the button. So I don't know what those other games are really necessarily going to contain. I don't know if we're going to get through all of them or not, so we will find out, I guess. But first, for this recommended game here, they're actually really quick before I start commenting on the game. It's not announced yet with a start date, but it has been mentioned in the SSCAIT Discord, which if you are not on, you should join. Link is in the description down below. That the yearly tournament is going to be starting soon for SSCAIT. So, we'll be looking for that in the future, and once a date is announced, I will announce it on the first cast after that date gets announced. So, this game, we've got Stardust spawning as the teal Protoss up at the top right of La Mancha, and we've got Crazio spawning down at the bottom right as the blue Terran. Nice catch there of the scout by Crazio. I'm trying to look at well, what's being built, and I couldn't see because the production tab wasn't open yet. We've got the production tab open now though, and we can see that it is a factory. So this is, and we had 1 on the gas, now we're back to, then we went to 0, now we're back to 3, so I'm not exactly sure if this is going to be some type of fast expand or not, though the bunker is at the natural. So I suspect this will be some type of early expansion out of Crazio. SCV getting chased down there by the Dragoon. Gonna go ahead and get away, managed to live as the military forces here are deciding to march forward. It looks like a second SCV was coming out to scout. I believe that first SCV did get caught when we looked away. And so here, Crazio preparing. Yep, there is the command center being thrown down. The first tank just finishing up. It looks like siege mode is on the way. So everything is looking pretty standard here for Crazio. We've got Stardust here starting to form an arc. Looking at that bunker, finds out in a single shot that siege mode is going, which siege tanks deals so much damage. Almost taking the entirety of the shield away from that Dragoon. And now we have Crazio backing up a little bit here, going up to the high ground for the one tank, and then another tank on the low ground. Gonna get some shots and push this arc back just a little bit further. Does get some health damage on that Dragoon that was shot earlier. So it's possible that that is some target firing there by Crazio. And here we have, Sartos is like, you have barely any units and you're just taking another base. And yep, that's exactly what Stardust is doing here. So it is interesting to see how this arc is forming with this high ground here, just because of the way this terrain is, right? Like the units are taking this path along this way here and across this bridge, and so they're forming up and above where there's a bunch of high ground that doesn't really come through anyway, but because they're not taking this path from the left, they're not forming the arc like you might think. Plus, due to the distance that they have to keep because of the siege mode from the bunker. Looks like the probes have transferred to the third. The third is established. It looks like Stardust is going to go ahead and take a 4th base as well. Meanwhile, back home, we've got some teching going on here. Robotics facility about to finish. Do we have leg speed? Leg speed is just about to finish as well. Observatory on the way to be able to deal with those spider mines. Units taking a few shots here, perhaps getting lured in just a little bit by these floating buildings, but overall, Stardust doing a good job not bleeding any units, really, just bleeding a little bit of damage. Actually, maybe on that same Dragoon. A little hard to tell. But there's one Dragoon that is a little bit hurt there. This barracks needs to be pulled back and repaired a bit, as it is in the burn down red stage. And now the arc has completed all the way over to the left side here, so here we get a little bit of that AI siege and unsiege action going on. Ooh, actually that mine I think got picked off before it could actually go off. So, oh, and a dive in here by Stardust, but There's a lot of units, but yeah, very well defended by Crazio. Nothing could get really on top of the tanks in the back. There's just a little too much there. But now that arc is gone, I think it decided to dive in when the Observer arrived, perhaps? The timing of that seems to line up, so I'm wondering if that was a trigger for that or not. You do have Arbiter Tech being placed at the 4th, which is kind of interesting in a way if you think about it, because most of the times if you're scanning to check for tech, you're going to be scanning the main. But this 4th is pretty safe because it's actually further away from Terran than the main is. So I think that's a perfectly fine move. We've got a 5th base starting to come up here. Crazio is going to need to take a base somewhat soon. Very healthy worker count by Stardust. Crazio's worker count is pretty good for being 2 base. Would maybe like to see more to be ready for taking that 3rd and get those workers transferred, but doesn't look like Crazio's going to be quite ready to take its 3rd just yet, so I think this is okay. Like when the Protoss army approaches, we see the vultures kind of condense onto the nearest tank, just trying to keep units off of the tanks. Just basically, your vultures kind of act as body blockers, right? They stop zealots from getting on top of the tanks. They stop and slow down dragoons from getting too close to the tanks. The tanks are the main damage dealers here, although the vultures will help to take care of zealots. Nice defense matrix going down there from Crazio. Now Crazio's starting to take the alternate routes here, which might cause a bit of a problem for Stardust. Stardust does have the Arbiter out. Do we have any Arbiter tech, though? Looks like Stasis just finishing up. Yep, and we do see a Stasis going down. Nicely Stasis defense matrix tank there. I don't think the defense matrix timer actually drops. So defense matrix kind of lives longer, quote unquote, if you will, on a Stasis unit. But it's interesting here. We've got Stardust's army bulked up over here in a spot where it can't actually reach this army easily of Crazio, and Crazio's kind of taking this alternate path to work their way up. And it looks like Crazio has taken the 3rd now. The worker count has climbed a bit. Getting that 3rd gas up, very important for Terran there. Yeah, Stardust just having a little bit of trouble here. Also, Stardust not seeming to hit 200-200 right now, but that could just be because it's bleeding a fair amount of units and just the gateway count that it has at the moment. Crazio taking a pretty commanding supply lead here. Stardust continuing to just sort of expand across the map, but excuse me, Crazio's army managing to get to the natural choke here. So this is a bit of a problem here for Stardust. Stardust getting some gateways over in the other main now. But it might not be enough at this juncture to really help out with like some kind of counter push or trying to break this push into the natural from 2 angles. We do have a bit of an army though starting to form up here. There are a couple of Arbiters out there. There is a Wraith out. I was going to say it's interesting I'm not seeing any Goliaths in Crazio's army. Oh wait, no, there is one. I see it now dancing up there. So, okay, there are a couple of Goliaths. You don't need too many when it's just Arbiters, but you usually do need a couple at least to try and get some shots off. Push Arbiters back. Looks like Crazio is now taking some extra bases of their own. They got the 4th over here close to the Protoss where the push is, protecting it. We've got a 5th starting down at the bottom. Gonna lose that 5th, I think, but Crazio looking in really good shape here. Getting into the main here, destroying much of the tech. Granted, this isn't a mining base anymore, but you're taking down the gateway count, you're taking out some tech, and you're forcing that to have to be rebuilt at the other main. So that's going to slow Protoss down a bit there. Protoss, though, moving over here to the 3rd. Probably going to force the abandonment of this base unless Crazio can divert enough forces here. There is quite the squad of tanks, so Crazio responding a bit more strongly to this 3rd. I like that move. Meanwhile, back at the main is being cleaned up by Crazio, and Protoss now has a new main. It's like they moved. They have moved from one base to another. So Crazio just kind of taking over this right side of the map here and trying to take over this bottom left as well. Moving into the main, since the natural there didn't quite work out. Yeah, Stardust just seems to not be able to really get a large army built up right now. Perhaps just being a little too aggressive in its engagement choices, not giving itself time to build an army back up. You really need, like, max army Protoss to throw at this kind of army from the Terran, right? Because what do we have in terms of upgrades? Yeah, it's a 3/3 Terran army. You just need numbers, and you need to be able to replenish those numbers quickly. And it seems as though that's not Stardust's plan, and so I think that's kind of where Stardust is running into a problem here. Gonna grab a quick drink here. So yeah, I think this is going to be pretty much cleaning up here by Crazio into the main and then into this base on the left. So we'll go ahead and just increase the speed here to 4 times as the AI cleans up here. And the minimap is always interesting to see after a game with Crazio, because you just see all of the mines that are just laid, excuse me, like everywhere. It's always fascinating to see, because you're not sure. You're like, well, wait, what's a unit? What's a building? What's a turret? Or what going on here? Little random attempt here at something by Stardust. Still has the 2 arbiters. This one trying to dance around outside of the range of the turrets. But yeah, the army is marching across the bridge here. A little bit slow because only 1 tank can fire at the moment on this cybernetics core here, but now we've got a tank coming from the other side, so this should wrap up pretty quick here, I think. I wonder what Crazio was thinking of transitioning to here. It looks like, oh, battle cruisers, okay, because yeah, getting a lot of although I wonder what it's researching out of the comsat, or not the comsat, the control tower, because that's only Wraith upgrades. But yeah, actually, I guess I could have looked at the upgrades and or research. So, oh, we even got lockdown, EMP, Yamato, Cloak. We were getting STEM at this point even, so a lot of good, fun stuff there out of Crazio. So great game from these 2 AI. And with that, we're going to go ahead and start into the games I've downloaded off of BASIL. So when I was downloading these, I could see the AIs that were involved, but then I renamed the files. So I really don't know which games I'm going to be pulling here out of the 10 that I got off that site. So also link to BASIL should be in the description down below. Go ahead and check that out if you want. There is at least 1 bot that is on BASIL that's not on SSCAIT, which is Broken Horn, which I did a cast focused on last week, which I've since found out Jay did a blog on. Jay is the author of Steamhammer, and apparently Broken Horn is a Steamhammer clone that has greatly revamped the strategies used and maybe done some stuff with the micro. Not exactly sure on that, but it's not what you would call like a shallow fork. It is definitely its own product, if you will. So it looks like we're getting a hatchery first and then a pool. I wasn't exactly paying attention to these supplies, but it looks like it was a 9 hatchery. Just based on the fact that it's 9/9 and has not got an overlord yet. Going up against Random Hammer here, which has rolled Zerg. Oh, and this might be a pretty quick one here as the Zerglings get on top before any buildings can finish. Random Hammer, I think, just did a 9 pull. Oof, yeah, that's a lot. Even if Broken Horn manages to survive here, yeah, there were 2 Zerglings that weren't engaging at all, which didn't help. And while it's able to repel Random Hammer for the moment, it's lost way too many workers. That's a lot of damage done very, very quickly here. And now having to pull the drones again. Yeah, it's going to be the last of the drones. No more money to reproduce them, so that's, yep, going to be game. Broken Horn is going to tap out. So very quick game there. But that's the way ZVZ tends to go, right? Sometimes you get a little bit of a coin flip. Sometimes you get really long games that go all the way to Hive Tech, but majority of the time, at least in my experience from games that I have seen, Zerg vs. Zerg can usually go pretty quickly there. So let's go ahead, get our next game, our next BASIL game loaded up here. It looks like we have Black Crow spawning as the White Zerg on Jade, going up against Flash spawning as the rescuable Teal Protoss down in the bottom right. I've always thought that was interesting in StarCraft campaign and Brood War campaign. Sorry if you heard that phone noise there. They always used the teal color for rescuable units. I wonder what made them make that choice. So we've got a couple of scouts passing each other here. Both getting that first scout on each other. Black Crow getting its spawning pool, so it looks like this was a 9 pool by my estimation. And we've got a 2 gate coming out of Flash. So I'm thinking Black Crow will have the units to deal with Zealot aggression, but it might struggle to take its natural, right? Because it's not, you can't get defenses preemptively as Zerg. You have to have that hatchery complete. You have to have that creep spread, and that takes time, and it's going to have to deal with these Zealots before that can happen, right? So it's going to be interesting to see if Black Crow can fend this off. It's not even getting any creep colonies or sunkens in the main, so it might run into some issues here. Now, the scouting probe was trying to get in there and see what is up. Does get chased away. It looks like Flash wanting to regroup its forces a little bit here, though the Zealot is still a little bit forward. Here we go. Now it's waiting for the others to join up here. So there are 4 Zealots. That probe somehow got in the main. I don't know how that happened, but now we have this engagement here at the ramp. The numbers are just too good for Flash here. A lot of damage getting done on these Zealots, but there's still a couple that are pretty weak that pulled back. Yeah, and it looks like Black Crow's going to be in some trouble here. Getting into that worker line, tearing apart those drones. A 3rd hatchery was on the way for Black Crow, but yeah, just not quite enough. I think a couple of Sunkens in the main, and maybe even just falling back and utilizing those would have helped. Yeah, Black Crow just producing Zerglings right now when it's out of workers. Not quite what you want to see. The probe's still dancing around the edge and being chased by a couple of Zerglings. And now with that, Black Crow has no units left. Zealots are free to come in, take out the buildings here. And Flash will take a win. So our next game, we've got Slater spawning as the yellow Protoss up in the top right of Circuit Breakers, and Bredberg spawning as the blue Terran down in the bottom left. So hopefully we'll get to see some fun ghost action going on here. Bredberg, one of the few Terran bots, if not the only, that will actually utilize nukes if it's able to get them. And a map like Circuit Breakers has a lot of available bases. Bredberg tends to mass expand, but you kind of need a lot of command centers to get the nuclear silos, so it ends up working out. Almost as if that's how it were designed, right? But let's see here. Slater going for 1 gate. Will we see a gas come down? Or is this going to be a 2nd gateway? Slater banking quite a few minerals here. Getting a pylon. It's interesting. I wonder what that one probe was just chilling out here for. Okay, we're getting the core. Still no gas yet. There's the gas. core is finished, but you're only going to be able to get zealots now. But that might be enough. On Bredberg. Oddly enough, not really scouting. Usually, if it's Marines, it would be out and about on the map trying to find its opponent. Okay, so Hans is responding to this early zealot pressure. And early zealot pressure could definitely be an issue for Terrans to have to deal with. Normally, you deal with them via your SimCity. It looks like this natural is probably going to fall. Hans is staying back up on the high ground with the Marines, not quite ready to engage. The Marines huddle around the supply depot. They're like, that must be where the beer is, right? They're like, defend the beer! But now they're huddling around. I think that's the academy that's being built. And now we've got Hans trying to kind of push out here. Looks like, okay, we finally have medics under production, but there is a pretty large Protoss force here. Marines can handle Dragoons in number, but do we have... Okay, we're getting range before stim, which is probably for the better with a really low medic count. But will Hans be able to... Although the only medic does get picked off there. Marines are focusing on the Zealots, which is what they need to do right now, but they were just sitting in range of the Zealots without enough medic support, and yeah, it looks like this is going to be a bit of an issue here for Hans. The Zealots not exactly sure what they're doing there, just letting these Marines get some free shots on them. But there are reinforcements coming from Slater that are just a little bit held up by this Dragoon on the ramp, so I don't think Hans is going to be able to turn this around. Slater, meanwhile, did go ahead and take their natural. They're going in and getting some tech here. They've got the robotics facility, getting a shuttle, a robotics support bay, and an observatory. Robotics support bay is great to get those reavers against any sort of Terran bio, and with that, Hans Bredberg is going to tap out of the game and give the win to Slater, allowing us to check out next game we have lined up here, which is going to be Prism Cactus spawning as the orange Protoss over on the left of Heartbreak Ridge, going up against Jjjjjj spawning as the brown Zerg over on the right. Heartbreak Ridge, actually, I think is a map that's in, which tournament is it? Is it BSL? Or there was something I saw. Yeah, I think it's BSL, has Heartbreak Ridge in it. Which, I don't think you see Heartbreak Ridge all that often anymore. But it's still a pretty good map. You do have this, like, high ground area behind the minerals. That could be a bit of a problem in TVZ. But it's definitely a good old map. You also have this back door mineral blocking with the temple blocking here too, sort of blocking off that high ground access from the other side. Here it looks like we've got a 1 gate and we've got a maybe 9 pool. I'm not sure when that pool was put down exactly. Looks like we were thinking about getting a hatchery, but that drone did some really funky moves there. But it manages to get down to lay that second hatchery. Getting here a second gateway after the core. Got some workers on gas here. And a citadel being thrown down, so we'll be seeing pretty quick leg speed, I think. Third hatchery coming down for 5Js. And a pretty far back creep colony. I think this gas is going to be a bit exposed. Especially 2 dragoons, but if anything wants to try and charge into that main, it's going to have a heck of a time trying to get to that sunken colony. And here, oh, the dragoon's not firing! Oh, now that one's not firing either, just taking a ton of hits and actually even falling to those Zerglings. That's a bit of a surprise. Perhaps a little bit of an attempt to over-micro the Dragoons, causing them to just sort of freeze up and not fire any shots. And now the 5Js moving forward with the Zerglings. These two are going to get here a little bit quick. But there's no detection here, and there is a DT out on the field. So actually not leg speed. It went for Dark Templar. And here, this Dark Templar is going to be able to just eat all of these Zerglings. And there's no lair, so there's going to be no Overlord speed anytime soon. But the Dragoons are going to fall, and the Lynx are going to get in here and cause a little bit of damage, forcing a cancel of whichever building that was. I wasn't quite able to see what it was in time. Stargate does finish, though. There's a shield battery. But yeah, these Dark Templar are really putting in some work. I wish I could see the kill count on them, because I bet it is very high. Oof, and just, yeah, these Dark Templar here really cleaning house here. Oh, and oh no, I just realized all the Overlords had moved out to try and help, and so Dark Templar were able to just march in here while there was no detection and just destroy the sunken, and just deal tons and tons of damage. Oh, wow. But now this Dark Templar is going to get caught there by that sunken, manages to get away in time. Wow, that was kind of crazy. Like, I just watched it and I didn't realize, like, the Overlords aren't there. Oh, no. Yeah, I think Prism Cactus is going to have this game off. Just one base versus one base. With the Dark Templar, the Invisible Capey Men. The Invisible Caped Men, however you want to call them. Really getting the job done here. Now the Overlords have fallen. There's a Corsair out. There's nothing that can shoot both up and down for the 5Js here. Now there is an Overlord that has popped, so there is detection for a short minute here, but I suspect that Overlord will not last for very long. And there it goes ahead and falls. Dark Templar is again able now to just get in there, finish up the last of the drones. Interesting that Prism Cactus is still being a bit hesitant to engage with the whole army. Perhaps the Sunken being a bit overvalued in terms of the defense that it can offer. Also, the Corsairs have, I don't think, done anything to the Overlords that are here, so... Overlord doing a little dance like, haha, I have scared off the Dark Templar. I am successful. No, come on. Do stuff. Larva? Can you hatch into things? Uh-oh. That's what I imagine this Overlord is thinking right now. But it's still just dancing. And Prism Cactus is very reluctant to engage with it. Prism Cactus, meanwhile, has taken the natural, is taking the third. The Nexus at the third, just finishing up here. And it is pathing appropriately to that third. The fourth starting up here on the other side. But it could be tricky to get your workers there, because if you just tell them to go mine from the main, say, or even I think sometimes from the natural, they'll go up this ramp and then they'll come down here and get stuck. So very cool to see Prism Cactus able to get that proper pathing for its workers to get to that base and populate it. I think we're going to go ahead and speed this up to 4 times and see if Prism Cactus ever decides to actually engage with this setup here. Come on, Prism Cactus, you've won the game. Just get in there. You've got... There we go. A huge... Like, you've got a huge army here that could just clean this up at any time that you want. Now is the time that it wanted. And with that, Prism Cactus will take the win. And so, now we've got Nightcat T spawning as the White Terran up at the top right. One of the workers taking a bit of a funky path to mine for whatever reason. Going up against Madmix Z spawning as the Teal Zerg. Looks like Madmix Z going for a 5 pool. We'll see if Nightcat T is able to survive the 5 pool or not. It kind of depends on where it puts its initial buildings. Looks like it might struggle a little bit. Depends on if it can get that bunker up in time as well. Scout going out now for Nightcat T. So against Zerg, it usually does, like the initial block of buildings that it puts will have a space for a bunker in order to defend. I think, so what's weird with this map is a lot of the times, a lot of the terrain analysis tools will identify a choke point here and a choke point here. And so this kind of gets broken up into like the 3 chunks for your main and then like this chunk here for the mineral only, which can cause some problems in identifying what is actually the choke that you need to defend, right? So the bunker is going to be a little bit mispositioned here, but this scout did keep Madmix Z's Zerglings back a bit. It has been found. But now the question is, you know, what's going to happen here? I'm suspecting with this bunker placement being at the wrong sort of choke point here, that Nightcat T is going to run into some issues. Yeah, and the Marines are trying to fight here, the Zerglings, but... Yeah, the Zerglings just rushing in, the bunker just mispositioned. And this is going to be a game here for Madmix Z. The Marines in the bunker doing the last little bit that they can. But yeah, with no more workers, we'll go ahead and up this to 4 times. And then the Zergling's able to come in and just clean up what was left. So good attempt there. But yeah, just misidentification of where to plop those initial buildings in that bunker to defend against that early Zerg aggression costs the game. And now we've got on circuit breakers, we have Marion Vecca spawning as the red Zerg up at the top right, and we've got Random Hammer getting Zerg again, spawning as the blue Zerg down in the bottom left. So we've got another ZVZ, but this is ZV Random Z. I think, though, on the BASIL ladder, it does pick the race in the lobby. So Marion Vecca should know the race that Random Hammer is for this game and know that it is indeed playing a Zerg versus Zerg. And it looks like we're getting similar builds out of both of them. Looks like we're getting a 9 pool from both. Although we're getting a faster gas out of Marion Vecca. An evolution chamber. So with that evolution chamber and with Random Hammer getting a lair here, I'm suspecting that Marion is going to go more for a hatchery level Ling Flood type play, whereas Random Hammer is going to be going for and trying to go for that lair into Muta style of play. But we'll see if that's what we end up seeing here. Yeah, we're getting a second base now for Marion, but what I'm wondering is, will we see spore colonies in time? I think this hatchery's going to finish in time for some spore colonies to be put down at that natural, but will there be enough to defend here? There is quite a flood of lings coming in here for Marion. I think the two Sunkets are going to be enough. Looks like considering throwing down a third one just to make sure that they're safe. Marion should have, I think, seen the lair, so just maybe regrouping a little bit there, getting another hatchery. There are no spore colonies yet, so I feel like Marion to Vecca is really, really pushing it here. Trying to run in there. Really needs to either just commit or stay back, but now Mutalisk is out on the field. Overlord taking some hits, and we do finally have a creep colony coming down here that can be morphed into a spore colony, so looks like that in the end is pretty well timed there by Marion to Vecca. Nice Mutalisk just getting a lot of shots off here on the Zerglings, just bleeding a lot of Zerglings here without any anti-air, just losing a lot of army for nothing right now. Falling all the way back. There's no anti-air at the natural, though. That is a bit troubling. So there is at least one colony at the main, and now morphing a lair where it can't be defended from the Mutalisks. Yeah, this natural is going to fall without any spore colonies. Really needed some kind of anti-air defense there at that natural. Now the Zergling's able to rush in here, taking out and targeting those drones. And yeah, I think this is going to be the game for Random Hammer. Nicely executed. Just a little bit more anti-air defense, and then those Zerglings could protect the natural from the Zerglings, while the spore colonies would protect it from the Mutalisks. And I think we'd have a very different game on our hands, but Random Hammer able to take that win. And so up next, we've got, it looks like Tomas Saray spawning as the blue Protoss up at the top right of Jade. And we've got Cgiazoo spawning as the teal Zerg down in the bottom left. And Jade is an interesting map because we do have the low ground main to high ground natural, which is not something that you see very often. You're more likely to see these days, I think, low ground to low ground than you are to see low ground to high ground. It especially makes it, there's a large chunk of like base here that if you're playing up against Terran, they could just siege tanks and fire into your main. There's I think a lot of issues that come from this type of setup. So we are seeing a fast expansion here from the Zerg, getting a hatchery at the natural, and now a pull. So I think that was a 12, 11, 10. From the looks of it, we have one gateway for Tomas. Going ahead and scouting. It looks, nope. Okay, I was gonna say scouting with that Zealot, but it's a little bit tricky to spot that Zealot, but since they are blue up against the blue map. Zerglings coming out for Zerg. Got a batch of 6. Huh, that's interesting. I think with with the replay viewer here, when Zerglings hatch, if you have the egg selected, it only selects one of the Zerglings and not the second one that comes out of the egg. Whereas in game, if you do it, you will get both of them selected, I believe. Might behave a little bit different too. In-game versus replay viewing in that scenario, because I believe you can only ever have like one unit of your opponents selected or allies selected. You can never like more than one select, and so I think live in game, if you have the egg selected, you only get one Zergling. But in replays, I'm pretty sure it, would select both of them. But it's been a little while, so I could be a little off on that. Like Tomas here. Protoss getting its second base here at the natural. Zerg teching up to Spire, so will we see some Mutalisk play come out? There's a good amount of larvae saved up here. Robotic support bay just finishing up here, so we'll maybe see... There's the Reaver, and we do see all of those larvae becoming Mutalisks here. Yeah, something that... And here we have the Mutalisks are out on the map and rushing toward Protoss's base, and there does not appear to be any anti-air at the moment. There's no Dragoons, there's no cannons. Dragoon just now being made, but it's still only one. The Mutalisks just having free reign here on the workers. That worker count plummeting now down to 26. This natural probably going to fall. Just a lack of anti-air. It's a large zealot force here. It looks like this would do well against like Hydra openers, but yeah, against a Mutalisk opener, not gonna fare as well. These Mutalisks are gonna be able to just clean up this base while the Zerglings sort of taunt this zealot Reaver force here. Actually, Protoss out of minerals, so these Reavers, however many Scarabs they have in them is all they're going to have. But yeah, Zerg doesn't even need to engage with that army, technically. Could just finish up all of the buildings here with the Mutalisks and call it a day. Natural Nexus here, just kind of burning in its blue fire. That is a large Mutalisk cloud. There's 28 Mutalisks on the field right now, which is a pretty crazy number. With that, the last building falls, and Protoss will lose the game. And up next, it looks like we are on Heartbreak Ridge again, this time though with Nlpr bot spawning as the Red Zerg over on the left side. And we've got another appearance from Tomas here, spawning as the Orange Protoss. So we've got another Zerg versus Protoss. Here, same Protoss opponent, different Zerg opponent. We will see, will Nlpr go for Hydra Opener, which I think Tomas's build could stand up against. Or will we see another Mutalisk opening and then not enough anti-air from Protoss? Nlpr going for a 9-pull here. Did get the Overlord though first, so the 9-pull is a little slower than it could be. Could have thrown down the pull before the Overlord just to get a little bit faster. Or wait, sorry, no, that was a hatchery. So that was actually a 9 hatch, I think. And now we've got the pool going down. So interesting choice. Everlord coming in here. Seeing what's going on. Initial Zerglings are coming out. They might be a little too much for these early Zealots. We'll see. I'm going to go ahead and back off here. Not quite able to get a good surround on them, but Zerglings, they don't have a lot of life, but they can deal their damage very quickly, and if they get a good surface area to attack something, that something will fall very quickly. And yeah, there's just too many Zerglings for those Zealots to handle, and now the base for Tomas is just freely offered to Nlpr. A lot of probes going down as well, but there's just too many reinforcements flooding in here now for Nlpr. Yeah, I think this is gonna... Yep, this is the game. Nexus is down. So yeah, it's one of the risks of having just Zealots for defense in the open. That's why a lot of the times with these early expansion builds, and I know this wasn't exactly an early expansion build because it wasn't like Nexus first or like, you know, getting the natural before any army, but that was pretty early in the game to try and take still your natural. That you see that sort of like SimCity wall here to stop those sort of Zergling floods, right? So that while you only have like 2 to 3 Zealots, you're able to hold that position because the Zerglings can't get that nice spread to get that DPS going. So nicely played by Nlpr there to sort of flood that base. And I think we've got time for at least one more game. We'll see if we can get the last 2 here in. We've got Wilbot spawning as the purple Terran over at the bottom left of Roadrunner. Going up against Cubot, spawning as the brown Zerg down in the bottom right. So we've got another TVZ. Let's see if Wilbot here can sort of redeem the Terran race here, where my bot failed earlier with the poor bunker placement. But to be fair, it got 4 pulled. I mean, come on. Or 5 pulled. No, I'm just kidding. But, let's see. We've got our barracks. Okay, so barracks has started. Very interestingly placed. Very far away from the ramp. Gonna take a bit for units to get from there to the ramp, but that can be okay. Gas is finished here. We're only on 1 hatch still. So it looks like we're getting some sort of 1 hatchery lair play. The earlylings are coming out. Bunker being correctly placed here at the ramp. Cubot guessing the wrong location, not spreading out the lings really to scout multiple bases at once. Oh wait, now here is a fresh split. We've got 2 bunkers here from Wilbot. Unfortunately, Cubot bleeding Zerglings there to these bunkers by running in, getting shot by the bunker, running away, and then dying. But it looks like the Hydralisk then is finished, so I think we're going to be seeing Lurkers. Yep, Lurker aspect just about done. Comsat station going to be done here for Wilbot. So Should have the energy for at least one scan by the time these lurkers are done, but only gonna have really the one scan. Oh no! It doesn't have vision of that high ground. There's the scan for Wilbot. To defend those lurkers, might have the energy for a second scan at this point. But yeah, not being able to see up on that high ground, really throwing the lurker play for Cubot off here. Because it's burrowing in response to getting shot, but then it can't see what was shooting it anymore. Once it burrows, then it unburrows and has to try and get closer. Yeah, and so like it's like gets stuck in the spot where it'll burrow and be able to get a shot off, but then it won't see anymore because it's not getting shot anymore, so it'll unburrow, but then as it's unburrowing, it'll get shot, and then when it's reburrowing, it'll get a shot, and maybe it'll get a second shot off, but then it's going to pop. So yeah, this play does not seem to be working out quite as well for Cubot as it could. With the scan going down there, it's able to get some continuous shots, but yeah, there's just too much here. And Cubot doesn't seem to be transitioning into anything, doesn't seem to be getting anything at all, actually, now at this point. Okay, there we go. Now it's getting some units. But yeah, it's not expanding. It's building up quite a bank. So I think this is kind of like an all-in approach where it's going to just keep trying to do these lurkers until they work or don't work. Wilbot trying to take its natural here, maybe, but having a little bit of issues getting units down the ramp. Okay, now here we go. Cubot is going ahead, taking its natural now. Continuing to try and be aggressive with those lurkers, and it's just not working out with the numbers. There's a Marine harassing this natural hatchery that's just being left alone. The units from Cubot rushing to their death at the natural of Wilbot instead of killing this Marine. Up there we go. Okay, and as I say that, Caster's Curse, they go ahead and take care of it. Yeah, Wilbot playing super passive here, just content to sit, taking bases. With that unsiege, I thought maybe going to be aggressive here, but I'm going to continue to sit back for now. Floating a starport, interesting choice. Yeah, I think, though, it's just kind of waiting for Wilbot to decide to move out at this point. Cubot is going ahead and taking another base, but yeah, it seems to be stuck on a lair tech. I don't know if it's ever going to go too high. It's now taking this third here that is closer to the Terran. Normally as Zerg you want to expand away from the Terran Warp. This starport really going out there to scout. Wow. Whoever is piloting that starport, very, very brave. Oh, Wilbot's even got ghosts out on the field now, which you usually don't see against Zerg very much. So a lot of their abilities, like Cloak, is often negated by the fact that Overlords also power supply, or provide supply. Lockdown can't do anything to any of the Zerg units, so you don't see ghosts used a lot unless you're going to bust out nukes, say, against the Zerg. But, like, if they've got a ton of Sunkas. But here, Terran marching to the natural, pretty much unopposed. We do have High Ground Lurker. If they stay burrowed, could cause some problems, but the tank's able to clean that up pretty easily. Where's the scan? Up there's a scan. It's High Ground Lurkers, though, causing some problems. I don't know if Wilbot knows where the other bases are, though. Maybe just... Now, a little bit of a counteraction happening while the army was away. I think the army is pulling back now, though. There are no science vessels either out, so no mobile detection to deal with the lurkers. The main base being left alone, I don't think Wilbot's actually seen it. So it's like Wilbot killed the one base they found with that one Marine, and then just kind of pulled home. Has taken another base, but Wilbot just needs to find that main so it can go ahead and take it out. The starport was doing some scouting, man. I don't know. I'm not sure what it's doing now. It's just kind of flying to random places. Looks like Wilbot's army is going out on the map now to sort of explore and try to find bases. And does find this expansion here in the army. Instantly turns to go after it. Even an SCV in the army. And now the other two bases have not yet been found. The main about to mine out for Cubot. Cubot very low on minerals. But Cubot does still have this base from which it could mine. We'll see if these workers move over there or not. Stop that 420 gas. Pretty funny. Okay, that looks like the main was found now, so Wilbot gonna go ahead and clean out the main. And it looks like the drones were going to try and transfer, but transferring through your opponent's army, generally not a good idea. This base does get found by Wilbot, so Wilbot will clean this up. And I think this will be the last game of the day looking at the time. Thank you all very much for tuning in. We appreciate your support. And like I said, once we have a date announced for the tournament, I will go ahead and add or mention that in the video I record after that date gets announced. But I'll most likely be casting, once the tournament is done and complete, we will be casting the tournament games, the elimination bracket, and while it's ongoing, we will probably be casting some of the round robin phase. So want to thank everybody again for tuning in. We appreciate your support. Again, links in the description for the BASIL ladder, the SSCAIT Discord if you want to join, and also I think the Twitch page for the SSCAIT is on there as well. So go ahead and check those links out. Go ahead and click like if you enjoyed the video, and click subscribe if you like watching these. That's a great way to know when a new one of these get posted, which we try to aim for every week on Sundays. So again, thank you all. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.